Hello, everyone. Today I'm bringing you another fairy tale. This one by the brothers Grimm, and they wrote some good ones. And this one is Hansel and Gretel, and it's a good story, but a little bit rough too because it's about poverty and uh, a very poor time in history. So here we go. Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, there dwelt near a large wood a poor woodcutter with his wife and two children by his former marriage, a little boy called Hansel and a little girl named Gretel. He had little enough to break or bite, and once there was a great famine in the land, he could not procure even the daily bread for his family. And as he lay thinking in his bed one evening, rolling about for his troubles, he sighed and he said to his wife, "Oh, what will become of us? How can we feed our children when we have no more than we can eat ourselves?" "No, then, my husband," she answered, "we will lead them away quite early in the morning into the thickest part of the woods, and there make them a fire and give them each a little bit of bread, and then we will go to our work and leave them alone so that they cannot find their way home again, and we shall be free from them." "Oh my no, oh my God, no, my wife," he replied. "That I could never do. How can you bring your heart to leave my children all alone in the woods, for wild beasts will soon come and tear them to pieces?" "Oh, you simpleton," said she, "then we must all four die together of hunger. You had better plane the coffins for all of us." But she left him no peace, and every day she harassed him until he consented, saying, "Ah, but I shall regret my poor children." The two children, however, had not gone to sleep for very hunger in their bellies, and so they overheard what the stepmother had said to their father. Gretel wept bitterly and said to Hansel, "What will ever become of us?" "Shh, be quiet, Gretel," said he. "Do not cry. I will soon help." And as soon as the parents had fallen asleep, he got up, he put on his coat, and unbarring the back door, he slipped out. The moon shone brightly, and the white pebbles which lay before the door seemed like little silver pieces, they glittered so brightly. Hansel stooped down and put as many in his pocket as he could hold, and then going back, he said to Gretel, "Be comforted, my dear sister, and sleep in peace. God will not forsake us." And so saying, he went to bed again. The next morning, before the sun arose, the wife went out and woke the two children. "Get up, you lazy things. We are going into the forest to chop wood." Then she gave them each a piece of bread, saying, "There is something for your dinner. Do not eat it before the time, for you will get nothing else." Gretel took the bread in her apron, for Hansel's pockets were full of pebbles, and so they all set out upon their way. When they had gone but a little distance, Hansel stood still and peeped back at the house, and this he repeated several times, till his father said, "Hansel, what are you peeping at, and why do you lag behind? Take care, and remember your legs." "Ah, father," said Hansel, "I am looking at my white cat sitting on the roof of the house, and trying to say good-bye to her." "You simpleton," said the wife, "that is not a cat. It's only the sun shining on the white chimney." But in reality, Hansel was not looking at the cat, but every time he stopped, he would drop a pebble out of his pocket upon the path. When they came to the middle of the woods, the father told the children to collect wood, and he would make them a fire so that they should not be cold. So Hansel and Gretel gathered together quite a little mountain of twigs. Then they set them to the fire to them, and as the flames burned up high, the wife said, "Now, you children, lie down near the fire and rest yourselves while we go into the forest and chop wood. When we are ready, I will come and call for you." Hansel and Gretel sat down by the fire, and when it was noon, each of them ate the piece of bread. And because they could hear the blows of an axe, they thought their father must be near. But it was not an axe, but a branch which he had bound to a withered tree so as to be blown to and fro by the wind. They waited so long that at last their eyes closed from weariness and they fell fast asleep. When they awoke, it was quite dark, and Gretel began to cry. How shall we get out of the woods, Hansel? But Hansel comforted her, saying, Wait just a little while till the moon rises, and then we will quickly find our way. The moon soon shone forth, and Hansel, taking his sister's hand, followed the pebbles, which glittered like new coined silver pieces, and showed them the path. All night long they walked on, and as day broke, they came back to their father's house. They knocked at the door, and when the wife opened it and saw Hansel and Gretel, she exclaimed, Oh, you wicked children! Why did you sleep so long in the woods? We thought you were never coming home again. But their father, of course, was very glad, for it had grieved his heart to leave them all alone. Now, not long afterwards, there was again great scarcity in every corner of the land, and one night the children overheard their mother saying to their father, Everything is again consumed, and we have only half a loaf of bread left. And then the whole song is ended. The children must be sent away. We will take them even deeper into the wood this time, so that they may not find their way out again. It is the only means of escape for us. But her husband felt heavy at heart and thought it was better to share the last crust of bread with the children. His wife, however, would listen to nothing of it, and nothing that he said, and scolded and reproached him without end. He who says A must say B too, and he who consents the first time must also consent the second time, she said. The children, however, had heard the conversation as they lay awake, and as soon as the old people went to sleep, Hansel got up, intending to pick up some pebbles as before. But the wife had locked the door so that he could not get out. Nevertheless, he comforted Gretel, saying, Do not cry. Sleep in quiet. The good God will not forsake us. Early in the morning, the stepmother came, and she pulled them out of bed, gave them each a slice of bread, which was even smaller than the former piece she had given them. On the way, Hansel broke his in his pocket, stopping every now and then, and dropped a crumb on the path. Hansel, why do you stop and look about? Said the father. Keep on the path. Oh, I am looking at my little dove, answered Hansel, nodding goodbye. It's nodding goodbye to me. Oh, you simpleton, said the wife. That is no dove, but only the sun shining on the chimney. So Hansel kept still dropping crumbs as he went along. The mother led the children into the woods where they had never been before, and there, making an immense fire, she said to them, Sit down here and rest, and when you feel tired, you can sleep for a little while. We are going into the forest to chop wood, and in the evening, when we are ready, we will come and fetch you. When noon came, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, who had strewn his on the path, and then they went to sleep. But the evening arrived, and no one came to visit the poor children. And in the dark of the night they awoke, and Hansel spoke and comforted his sister, saying, Only wait a little while, Gretel, till the moon comes out, and then we shall see the crumbs of bread which I have dropped, and they will show us the way home. The moon shone indeed, and they got up, but they could not see any crumbs, for the thousands of birds which had been flying about in the woods and the fields had picked them all up and eaten them. Hansel kept saying to Gretel, We will soon find the way, but they did not, and they walked the whole night long and into the next day, and still they did not come out of the woods. And they got so hungry, for they had nothing to eat but the berries which they had found upon bushes. Soon they got so tired that they could not even drag themselves along, so they lay down under a tree and went to sleep. It was now the third morning since they had left their father's house, and they still walked on, but they only got deeper and deeper into the woods, and Hansel saw that if help did not come very soon, they would soon die of hunger. As soon as it was noon, they saw suddenly a beautiful snow-white bird sitting upon a bough, and it sang so sweetly that they stood still and listened to it. It soon left off and, spreading its wings, flew, and they followed it until it arrived at a cottage, upon the roof of which it perched. And when they went close up to it, they saw that the cottage was made of bread and cakes, and the window panes were made of clear sugar. "We will go in there," said Hansel, "and have a glorious feast. I will eat a piece of the roof, and you can eat the window. Will it not be sweet?" So Hansel reached up and broke a piece off the roof in order to see how it tasted, while Gretel stepped up to the window and began to bite it. Then a sweet voice called out in the room, "Tip tip tap, who raps at my door?" And the children answered, the wind, the child of heaven." And they went on eating without interruption. Hansel thought the roof tasted very nice, and so he tore off a great piece, while Gretel broke a large round pane out of the window and sat down quite contentedly. Just then the door opened, and a very old woman, walking upon crutches, came out. Hansel and Gretel were so frightened that they let fall what they had in their hands. But the old woman nodded her head and said, "Ah, my dear children, what has brought you here? Come in, and stop with me, and no harm shall befall you." And so saying, she took them both by the hand and led them into her cottage. A good meal of milk and pancakes with sugar, apples, and nuts were spread out on the table in the back room for them, and they ate. There were two nice little beds covered with white, where Hansel and Gretel laid themselves down and thought themselves in heaven. The old woman had behaved so very kindly to them, but in reality she was a wicked witch who waylaid children and built the bread house in order to entice and lure them in. But as soon as they were in her power, she often killed them, cooked and ate them, and made a great festival of the day. Witches have red eyes and cannot see very far, but they have a fine sense of smelling, like wild beasts, so that they know when children approach them. When Hansel and Gretel came near the witch's house, she laughed wickedly, saying, "Aha, here comes two who shall not escape me." And early in the morning, before they awoke, she went up to them and saw how lovely they lay sleeping, with their chubby red cheeks, and she mumbled to herself, "That will be a good bite." And then she took up Hansel with her rough hands, and she shut him up in a little cage with a lattice door, and although he screamed loudly to get out, it was of no use. Gretel came next, and shaking her till she awoke, she said, "Get up, you lazy thing, and fetch some water to cook something good for your brother, who must remain in that cage and get fat. And when he is fat enough, I shall eat him." Gretel began to cry, but it was all so useless, for the old witch made her do as she wished. So a nice meal was cooked for Hansel, but Gretel got nothing else but a crab's claw. Early in the morning, the old witch came to the cage and said, "Hansel, stretch out your finger so that I may feel whether you are getting fat enough." But Hansel used to stretch out a bone, and the old woman who was having very bad eyesight, thought it was his finger, and she wondered very much that it did not get fat. When 4 weeks had passed, Hansel still kept quite lean, and she lost all her patience and would not wait any longer. "Gretel," she called out in passion, "go get me some water quickly. Whether Hansel is fat or lean, this morning I will cook and eat him." Oh, how the poor little sister grieved as she was forced to go fetch the water, and how fast the tears ran down her cheeks. "Dear God, please help us now," she exclaimed. "Had we only been eaten by the wild beasts in the woods, then we should have died together at least." But then the old witch called out, "Leave off that noise. It will not help you a bit." So early in the morning, Gretel was forced to go out and fill the kettle and to make a fire. "First we will bake, however," said the old woman. "I have already heated the oven and kneaded the dough." And so saying, she pushed poor Gretel up to the oven, out of which the flames were burning fiercely. "Creep in," said the witch, "and see if it's hot enough, and then we'll put in the bread." But but she intended when Gretel got in to shut up the oven and let her bake so that she might eat her as well as Hansel. Gretel perceived what her thoughts were, and so she said, I don't know how to do it. How shall I get in? You stupid goose, said the witch. The opening's big enough. See, I could get in myself. And she got up and she put her head in the oven. And then, when she had her head inside the oven, Gretel gave her a big push so that she fell right in. And then she shut the iron door and she bolted it. Oh, how horribly the witch howled. But Gretel ran away and left the ungodly witch to burn to ashes. Now she ran to Hansel and opened his door and called out, Hansel, we are saved. The old witch is dead. So he sprang out like a bird out of his cage when the door was opened, and they were so glad that they fell upon each other's necks and kissed each other all over. And now, as there was nothing else to fear, they went into the witch's house, where in every corner there were there were boxes full of pearls and precious stones. These are better than pebbles, said Hansel, laughing, and putting as many into his pockets as he could hold. Well, Gretel thought, I will take some home too, and she filled her apron full. We must be off now, said Hansel, and get out of this bewitched forest. But when they had walked for 2 hours, they came to a large place where there was water. We cannot get over that, said Hansel. I cannot see any bridge at all. And there is no boat either, said Gretel. But there swims a big white duck. I will ask her to help us over. And she sang out, Please, little duck, good little duck. Gretel and Hansel, here we stand. There is neither stile nor bridge. Take us back to land. So the duck came over, and Hansel sat himself on, and he bade his sister to sit there behind him. No, no, answered Gretel. That will be too much for that little duck. She shall take us over one at a time. This the good little bird did, and when both were happily arrived on the other side and had gone a little ways, they came suddenly to a well-known place, which they knew the better for every step that they went. And at last they perceived they were near their father's house. And then they began to run, and soon they came upon it bursting into the house. They fell on their father's neck. He had not had one happy hour since he had left the children in the forest, and his wife, who was very cruel, was now dead. Gretel shook her apron, and the pearls and precious stones rolled out upon the floor, and Hansel threw down one handful after the other out of his pockets. And then all of their sorrows were ended, and they lived together in great happiness. The end. And that is the story. It's a little bit of a rough one there, but bad poverty in olden times. It still exists today. So I hope you enjoyed that story by the brothers Grimm, Hansel and Gretel. So please, if you would, leave a like, subscribe. John Mike spoiler alert. Check out all of our other stories and our other poems, and just check out our channel. And if you would forward the links to other people, share it. We could use the help and the support. We're a small channel, but we try to bring you some good content. So thanks very much for listening today.